during your leisure activities, are you being pushed by the current in any direction because you're not actually making a choice of where you want to go or what you want to get out of that activity? Or do you have the accelerator on and you're exerting some energy to move in a favorable direction that ultimately is going to benefit your life?
Got a calm in my chest, got a clear inside. Slow it down, let it come to you. No need to force what's already true.
Don't fall into the leisure trap, which is where you spend half of your time waiting for the weekend or when you have some free time outside of work, only to perpetuate the same habits and the same routines that you have been doing, which inevitably just reinforces this same cycle of feeling stressed out, burnt out with low energy, and never feeling like you have enough time to recover before you have to start it all over again the next week when you go back to work and again do the same cycle that you have to, but on somebody else's time. And so the key to that is when you have your own time, maximizing what you do in a way that starts giving you more energy and still gives you some time to relax and do nothing and feel like you're recharged before you have to do it all over again. So maybe this is familiar. By the time Wednesday rolls around, you can't wait for Friday and Saturday so that you can just spend it doing whatever you want. Preferably, maybe sitting on the couch, watching TV, or scrolling through social media and just totally relaxing so that you can recharge from all the emotional or even physical energy that you had to exert throughout the week. But then by the time the weekend rolls around and you do those things, you don't actually feel any better necessarily on Sunday while you're starting to get ready and prepared for the next week. Like you weren't fully recharged and you didn't actually fully recover before having to go to bed on Sunday night and dreading having to wake up Monday morning. And so that's what I mean by the leisure trap. There's this part of you that feels like this is the thing that I need. And then by doing that, it doesn't actually provide the value or benefits that you thought it would. But yet, as the week goes on, in the midweek while you're working, there's still that instinctual desire to just do absolutely nothing on the weekend. And when that type of cycle is reoccurring, it can be counterintuitive to feel like I need to be doing something more on the weekend. And so when I think about the law of conservation of energy that states energy is neither created or destroyed, it's only transformed. With that in mind, then, instead of doing nothing and having no energy output, counterintuitively, it's going to be important for us in order to gain energy and feel better throughout the week or even on the weekend is to exert our energy into something productive so that over time, especially when that comes to exercise or participating in hobbies that you enjoy, that you can get lost in and get into the flow state more often with whatever it may be, that starts actually recharging us in a different way. Whether it's through fulfillment or even exercise, the more you exercise, the healthier your body becomes, the stronger your body becomes, and therefore it's able to withstand and endure so much more stress, both physically and mentally, because exercise is both a physical and mental task, that you create a wider buffer in your life in terms of the things that you can tolerate, so that throughout the week, you feel less and less run down by the end of it. And not only that, you have broken the cycle of feeling like you have to do nothing at all to relax, when in reality, you can still exert your energy in an activity that you can find very relaxing. Like, one of the most relaxing parts of my day, even if I don't feel like going to the gym, once I'm done with that workout and I go home and I sit on the couch and watch TV or sit on my phone for a little bit, it's so much more enjoyable to do that when my body wants to rest and I can let my mind roam. And it feels like that rest is actually much more productive rather than feeling antsy or feeling like you're not quite getting the rest that you thought that you would by just doing those things without exerting any energy beforehand. Because in reality, you're always doing something. You're never doing nothing. Even if you choose to go to the park and just sit in nature or sit on the couch and be on your phone, whatever it is, or even meditating because you're not doing anything, but in reality, there is a task and there is an intention at play for you to do that something. Exercise is obviously more of a something, but just sitting there and observing your thoughts or watching cars go by or sitting in nature is still a choice to perform a certain action. So whether you choose to exert more or less energy on the weekend, realize that the things that you may have been choosing up to this point, even if they're not very physically involved or don't involve leaving your house, you're still choosing to do something. And so that brings me to my next point, which is stagnancy is a lie, because you're either moving in one direction or another. And I like thinking about this as an analogy of being on a ship. And say you're traveling across the ocean or any body of water, preferably something that has a stronger current. When you're choosing to go in a certain direction and the motor's on and you're accelerating in that direction, obviously that's going to be the direction that you're moving in. But if you choose to decide not to go in a specific direction of your choosing and you turn off the accelerator and cut the motor off, you're not going to be sitting in one spot, right? The current, which in this case would be your environment, is going to be pushing you in a direction. Hopefully it's in the direction that you're choosing, but my point with all this is on the weekend or on your free time during your leisure activities, are you being pushed by the current in any direction because you're not actually making a choice of where you want to go or what you want to get out of that activity? Or do you have the accelerator on and you're exerting some energy to move in a favorable direction that ultimately is going to benefit your life on the longer term? Because one weekend here and there obviously isn't going to make a huge change. But when you are consistent about breaking that habit and exerting some energy for a specific task on the weekend to see how you feel afterward, because it is counterintuitive, do you feel like the next week or the next day you feel a little better? Like your mood is elevated a little bit more. And once you start noticing those changes, it's more believable to see how the counterintuitive nature of exerting more energy to gain energy back is more of a real thing. So if stagnancy is a lie and we are always doing something rather than nothing, whatever that choice leads us to do, then that means every decision that we make in regards to how we spend our free time is either contributing to our progression into a new cycle and behavioral pattern, or it's reinforcing the same cycle and behavioral pattern that we have now. And therefore, that's going to affect our emotional state, our mood, and our overall outlook on our lives, and our overall sense of well-being. So with that in mind, which actions have you been choosing on a daily or weekly basis during your free time, and how has that been contributing to your overall health and satisfaction? Because in a lot of cases, we may not feel totally fulfilled with what we're doing at work. And if that's your case, it makes for a harder situation because we spend a large part of our lives at work. And it feels like we only have a very short period of time that we truly have to ourselves. And so it can feel like an emotional defense mechanism to really protect and savor those free moments of free time that we have throughout the week to just totally relax and give ourselves a moment to just rest for a second. And so with all this in mind, I'm not saying never watch TV again, never go on social media, or never just sit on the couch and relax and just be to yourself with your own thoughts. I think all of those things are great. But when you approach it in more of an intentional nature, then it can allow those situations to be even more effective at giving you those moments to just sit there and relax and not have to worry about all these other responsibilities or things that you need to do. But it also opens up some awareness to be able to pick and choose a little bit more intentionally about certain time periods in which you provide yourself those opportunities. Because even then, there's still things that you need to do around the house or go to the store, things of that nature. But when you can time block different periods of your free time to say, I'm just going to watch some TV for this period of time so I can relax my mind and kind of go into autopilot in a way. But then in this small period of time, I'm going to center my focus and do something like exercise and push myself physically and mentally really hard for a short period of time. And then I'm going to allow myself to go back home, make some food, again, maybe watch some TV while I eat so I can go back on autopilot, rather than spending all of that free time on autopilot. Because it sounds like a good idea at first, and it feels like when those moments are coming up that that's what we need. But if you have found that the more often you do that it never actually is quite as effective at getting the outcome or the desired response that you wanted, maybe it's time to exert a little bit more energy within your free time and see how that changes your mood and how relaxed and recovered you actually feel before you start the next work week. And so I hope that's helpful, and that's something that has always been helpful for me, because when I have found myself in those same sort of cycles, I've realized that even when I went to the gym or I was doing these other things, I just wanted to go home and sit on the couch. And it's understandable, especially when we go through these periods of life where you have some depression or anxiety, and that's your comfort zone. But that comfort zone is the reinforcement of needing the comfort zone. So the more often you give in to that and reinforce that behavior, it becomes easier and easier and more second nature to just find yourself at any point in time just going back to that activity or laying on the couch or whatever it is, and it becomes harder to break over time. And so I hope you think about some of these ideas or even put some of them into practice. And more importantly, I hope you notice that positive change in your mood and overall outlook when you try these things for a consistent period of time and have the awareness of being able to determine week by week and check in with yourself, well, how do I feel now? Because those are always very helpful and very productive things to do.